Within the pages of the Bible, particularly in the book of Esther, unfolds the story of a brave, young, beautiful girl named Esther, set in the heart of the ancient Persian Empire. Her story is exciting and romantic, but it is also a story of assassination's plot and deepest conviction. From being a Jewish orphan, she rises to become the queen of Persia, risking everything to save her people from a dangerous plot. Esther's bravery and trust in God teach us important lessons that continue to inspire people throughout the ages. In the book of Esther, we follow this remarkable journey of her and learn about a joyous celebration called Purim to remember the happy ending. It happens more than 100 years after some Jewish people were taken from their home and sent to Babylon. Esther and her cousin Mordecai were part of this group of Jewish people who lived outside their homeland. After being taken away from their home, they ended up in Susa, the main city of Persia. So they were like a family of Jews living in Susa after leaving their original home. Esther, also known as Hadassah, lost both of her parents and was raised by her much older cousin Mordecai, who took care of her like a father. The book of Esther, chapter 2, verses 5 to 7 NIV. Mordecai had a cousin named Hadassah, whom he had brought up because she had neither father nor mother. This young woman, who was also known as Esther, had a lovely figure and was beautiful. Mordecai had taken her as his own daughter when her father and mother died. So, this is how Esther's story begins with Mordecai, her cousin, taking care of her in Susa. In the book of Esther, chapter 1, verses 1 to 22, King Xerxes, also known as Ahasuerus, organized a grand banquet that lasted for 180 days. Following this extensive celebration, he hosted a special feast for 7 days in the courtyard of the royal palace. These parties were like a big show-off to let everyone see how rich and awesome the Persian Empire was. Now, during the party, King Xerxes had been drinking a lot and wanted to display the beauty of Queen Vashti to all his guests. He commanded his eunuchs to bring Queen Vashti wearing her royal crown. Queen Vashti refused to come, and this refusal angered King Xerxes greatly. His advisors were concerned that Vashti's disobedience might set an example for other women in the empire. They were worried that if the queen didn't listen, other women might also start not listening to their husbands. To handle the situation of what seemed like a rebellion, the king followed the advice of his counselors and made an important decision. He declared a decree that Queen Vashti couldn't be the queen anymore. That's how Queen Vashti lost her position as the queen because she didn't do what the king wanted. After Queen Vashti was removed from her position, King Xerxes wanted a new queen. So he looked for the most beautiful girl in the whole kingdom to replace Vashti, and a search was conducted throughout the kingdom. Among the many young women gathered for this purpose, Esther stood out for her exceptional beauty and grace. Esther underwent a year of beauty treatments and preparations before being presented to King Xerxes. During this time, she won the favor of everyone who saw her. The king, impressed by Esther's beauty and charm, chose her as the new queen. The specific Bible verse describing this event is Esther chapter 2, verse 17 NIV. Now the king was attracted to Esther more than to any of the other women, and she won his favor and approval more than any of the other virgins. So he set a royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. This verse captures the moment when King Xerxes was drawn to Esther's beauty and chose her to be the new queen, even though he didn't know she was secretly Jewish. Esther was careful to keep the Jewish identity a secret, as advised by her cousin and guardian, Mordecai. He told her to keep her Jewish identity a secret because it might be tricky in the big Persian Empire where there weren't many Jewish people. Esther's hidden identity becomes a crucial aspect of her character as the plot unfolds, showcasing her courage and strategic thinking even when things were really hard. As the story goes on, we see that Haman, a high-ranking official in the Persian Empire, became angry with Mordecai because Mordecai refused to bow down to him. This made Haman not just dislike Mordecai, but he started hating all the Jewish people. Haman went to King Xerxes and convinced him to issue a decree that said all Jewish people should be completely destroyed on a certain day. This rule was sent everywhere in the kingdom, putting all the Jewish people in serious danger. When Mordecai found out of Haman's evil plan to hurt the Jewish people, he felt very sad. He tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes, a traditional way of expressing deep distress and sorrow. Mordecai's actions caught the attention of Esther, who, as queen, was initially unaware of the decree. Mordecai sent a message to her, telling her about the danger and asking her to talk to the king to try and stop it. Esther learned about Haman's wicked plan to destroy her people and made a tough decision. Despite the danger, she decided to go to King Xerxes without him calling for her. This was a big risk because anyone who went to the king without an invitation would be punished, even the queen. Esther decided to go to the king, understanding the risk involved. Before doing so, she requested that all the Jews in Susa join her in a 3-day period of fasting and prayer. This is described in Esther chapter 4, verse 16 NIV. Go, gather together all the Jewish who are in Susa, and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. Thus, after the 3 days of fasting and prayer, Esther went to the king's inner court. The king welcomed her by extending his golden scepter, indicating that she could approach. Esther chapter 5 verses 2-3 NIV. When he saw Queen Esther standing in the court, he was pleased with her and held out to her the gold scepter that was in his hand. So Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter. Then the king asked, "What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom, it will be given you." Now Esther invited the king and Haman to a banquet, as described in Esther chapter 5, verses 1-8. At the banquet, the king asked Esther about her request, and she requested their presence at another banquet the next day. During the second banquet in Esther 7, the king again asked about Esther's desire. This time, Esther revealed the evil plot of Haman to destroy her and her people. She disclosed her Jewish identity and explained the danger facing the Jewish community. Esther chapter 7, verses 3-4 NIV recounts Esther's plea to the king. Then Queen Esther answered, "If I have found favor with you, your majesty, and if it pleases you, grant me my life. This is my petition, and spare my people. This is my request. For I and my people have been sold to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated." King Xerxes, shocked and angered by this revelation, asked who would dare to do such a thing. Esther pointed to Haman. revealing him as the one behind the wicked scheme. As a result, according to Esther chapter 7, verses 9 to 10 NIV, when the king found out that Haman was trying to hurt the Jewish people, he got really mad. Haman, who had set up a tall structure called gallows to punish Esther's cousin Mordecai, ended up in big trouble. The king ordered Haman to be put on those gallows instead. So the very thing Haman planned for Mordecai became the punishment for himself. This was a dramatic and tough moment for Haman, and it marked the end of his powerful position. Even though Haman was punished, there was still a big problem. The king had made a decree to hurt the Jewish people, and this decree couldn't be easily cancelled. So King Xerxes empowered Esther and Mordecai to counteract the decree. In Esther 8, the king gave Mordecai his signet ring, which was a symbol of royal authority. With this authority, Esther and Mordecai wrote a new decree that said that Jewish people could defend themselves against anyone trying to hurt them. This new rule was sent everywhere in kingdom. It meant that on a certain day, the Jewish people could gather and protect themselves from their enemies. Esther chapter 8, verse 11 NIV records the essence of the new decree. The king's edict granted the Jewish in every city the right to assemble and protect themselves, to destroy, kill, and annihilate the armed men of any nationality or province who might attack them and their women and children, and to plunder the property of their enemies. Thus, this was a way to make things right and keep the Jewish people safe. When the day came for the Jewish people to defend themselves, they fought back and won against their enemies. It was a big victory, and the Jews were so happy that they turned a day of sadness into a day of celebration, known as Purim, remembering how they were saved because of Esther's brave actions. Every year, during Purim, Jewish people read the book of Esther, exchange gifts, and engage in acts of charity to celebrate the victory and deliverance of their community. However, after the events in the Persian Empire, Esther maintained an important role in the royal court. Meanwhile, Mordecai rose to become a high official in the empire. In conclusion, the story of Esther in the Bible is a powerful narrative of courage, faith, and divine providence. Esther, a Jewish orphan who became queen, risked her life to save her people from a wicked plot. Her bravery and intervention, remembered every year during the festival of Purim, serve as an enduring example of resilience and trust in God. Esther's legacy continues to inspire, reminding us that even in the face of adversity, individuals can make a significant difference through courage and faith. So friends, that's all for today. If you like our presentation, please press the button of like and subscribe our channel Palette of the Past. Thank you.